started because I've done that before. All right. And then besides that, we're just going to kind of go into, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I do a quick thing, and then we're going to go into it. And like I said, you just kind of want to, I'll kind of guide you because I know where you want to go with your story. But besides that, just feel free to say, it's your story. You know what I mean? I can't, and then I'll ask questions on that.
Okay, that's good.
So, whenever you're ready, I'm just going to do a quick intro, and then I'll just say how thanks for coming on, and basically ask a little bit about yourself so everybody kind of knows, and then we'll go into it. So you ready to go? You're good to go then right now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. 22. All right, we are here at Sage News Live, and I've got a very interesting guest, and I want to thank She Van Fleet for hooking me up and being able to meet with Fillmore here. And he comes from a place that I want you guys to seriously listen to his story. It's very, very important, and this is something that he's coming on to make sure that everybody hears this story, because we have to. If you can't hear it, then you can't, and you don't learn about it, you're not going to see it's coming. And it's looks like it's coming this way. Correct? What we're about to tell them?
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and completely introduce yourself, tell them where you're from and everything, and we'll jump right in.
All right. Thank you, Sage, for having me. And I really thank Miss She Van Fleet for connecting us. And my name is Philemon. I'm originally from Eritrea in the Horn of Africa, which is well known as the North Korea of the region. And Eritrea is a very small country, and it controls the Red Sea, and it controls almost 600 miles of the Red Sea, and 300 islands, and it has a lot of minerals and gold. But unfortunately, it's under a communist state, which is under a single man rule, who went to China in 1960 to study Mao's communism, and came back to Eritrea, became president, and indoctrinate all our people, from education system to administration to judiciary system. All the institution has been controlled by the state, and been a tools of that states ever since. And Eritrea, I grew up in Eritrea until the age of 18, and I ran away from Eritrea and went to Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and Israel after 3 years of horrible journey. And then I stayed in Israel for almost 5 years. And then in 2016, I came to the greatest country, which is America. I've been here almost 5 years. So I'm so honored to be here with the freedom-loving Americans.
So yeah, let me kind of dive into that. So basically, he's the president of the country, technically, correct? I mean, he's a dictator, but he was voted in basically to be the president. But before that, and you'll have to help me with his name, he was a rebel, right? He was a freedom fighter, right? And that basically helped lead the freedom fighters to take the country back, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And what's his name?
His name's Isaias in our mother language, but in English means Isaiah Afwerki.
Isaiah, right? Isaiah Afwerki. Yeah, that one I can pronounce. Everybody knows I'm bad with names, so that's why I had you do that one. So, but once he did that, he literally went to China, and he got trained to be a communist politician, now president, in China.
Yes, that's correct.
They literally taught him, this is how you will be a politician.
Yeah.
Under communism. And that was with Mao. He actually studied under Mao.
Yes, exactly, in 1960.
And then he'd met Mao and everything. And basically Mao said, okay, we're going to train you. And he went through this training. And when I do this, I'm going to make sure that I show pictures, and I'll show the articles so that people can see this also. So after coming back, he then became, how did that work? He was voted in?
So, well, here is the story. In 1960, Eritrea was federated to Ethiopia. So in Ethiopia, there was a new regime overthrowing the kingdom,
Mhm.
which happened to be a communist regime in Ethiopia. So that communist regime kicked out all the Americans base in Eritrea. There was a American military base in area. They kicked them out. They nationalized American companies. So and this region went to Soviet Union, which is at that time the Soviet Union. They become cooperative, and the Soviet Union came to Ethiopia, which included Eritrea, controlling completely. And so, and then Eritrean people had to start a revolutionary army against this communist dictator regime in Ethiopia. And when we had to start that revolutionary army, the president, which is the current president now, which was the leader of the armed struggle at that time, he went to he really want to go to Russia, to Soviet Union.
Mm,
But because the enemy we were fighting is happened to be a
right.
communist regime supported by the Soviet Union, so he can now go to China. So what he did is, okay, then if I'm a communist, then if I couldn't go to China, then let me I couldn't get to Russia, then let me go to China, because
Right.
it's also we have similarity because our people are peasants. Majority of them are peasants and farmers, so we have actually much similar in culture. We have civilization. We have our own writing system. So it's actually we are similar to China than to Russia. And then he went to China, and then he met Mao, and he was not only him, by the way, a few of leaders, the top
Right.
leaders of the armed struggle, and they were trained for almost 1 year and a half, and they taught them all the tactics that they use, like even how to conscript farmers, what to say to the farmers, to the which is the right word is the proletariat, the
Right.
proletariat, the peasants, the working class. So like what to tell them, what to say to them, and then how to make them your part of your struggle. So he was taught that, and he came back to the revolutionary, and he used all the tactics that Mao taught him, and he organized all the peasants in Eritrea, and not only in Eritrea, also another group from Ethiopia.
Mhm.
So he formed two groups, one for independence of Eritrea, another group is to overthrow the Ethiopian regime.
Mhm.
uh, so he created two political communist group, and then in 1991 he
Right.
successfully overthrew the communist regime in Ethiopia, and we proclaimed our independence, and he installed another communist regime. It's called TPLF, or Malali, so Marxist
Mhm.
Lenin group. It's a little bit different version. He installed another communist regime in Ethiopia, which was supported by the Eritrean government. So, if you see in Ethiopia now for the last 25 years, China's involvement in Ethiopia was
Mhm.
very, very much, because the president who installed the group became the government of Ethiopia.
Right.
So it has a lot of ideological similarity with China. So it modified its way better than ours, but and that's how the story began. And we created our independent nation
Right.
under him.
So, and he was also the dictator, also president slash dictator, also basically was a bigger fan of Lenin and Stalin.
Yes,
He
he was
was.
actually he used to like them so much, but he
Right.
cannot convince the peasants that, well, we're fighting a communist regime supported by the Soviet Union, by Stalin. So the people, they were fighting against that regime, so they cannot say that we're friends. No way, because the people
Right.
who were under Isaiah 40 during the revolution, they were fighting for their self-determination, for
Right.
freedom, for independence. They did not understand fully the
Hmm.
ideology of communism that's happening around the globe. They did not really understand. They were fighting for their national freedom.
Right.
So even though they've been trained, they've been indoctrinated slowly, but they did not understand it fully because most of them also were illiterated, like they were not very educated. So it's easy for him to indoctrinate them, and at the same time it's hard for him to make them really understand the ideology of communism.
Right. And you brought up a good point there a couple seconds ago.
Mhm.
You said that he taught them, he learned what he could say, but he also learned how to make it a common cause that they felt they were fighting with him to bring in this communism. Like he
Yeah.
basically he knew they teach you how to talk to the people so that you actually make the people think like you're all together fighting for the better good, but that better good ends up being communism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was interesting that you used that. You said that a couple seconds ago, and I picked that out. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So now you grew up there, and what years were you that basically there? From what year were you there, and what year did you leave?
So I was born in 1989 when so basically I was born around the time that Eritrea was independent and
Mhm.
separated from Ethiopia. So basically when he grabbed power, the president grabbed power, I was born around that time. So I grew up with him until the age of 19. So in 2001, so he started a war with Ethiopia.
Mhm.
In 1994, he started a war with Yemen on the border on the Red Sea. And in 2006, he started a war with Djibouti. So all these wars, he intentionally started these wars because he want to overthrow the government within the country, because
Okay.
he wants to control it fully, because even though he has this ideology, all these groups surrounding him that who believe the same ideology,
Mhm.
yet the country is very conservative, a very traditional conservative people, so they cannot easily be changed to a communist ideology people. They cannot really be convinced.
Right.
They were Christian, we were Judeo-Christian, so we grew up very religious. I grew up very religious, and
Right.
they've been fighting. They have also a heritage of history fighting an Islamic invasion from the Saudi Arabia, from Yemen, from Egypt, from Sudan. So for 800 years, so they had this historic trauma that they cannot easily change it to like a multiculturalist or internationalist
Mm.
ideology. It's very,
Yeah.
so he has to overthrow the government. In order to throw the government, so he had to start a war with Ethiopia under the pretext of, well, Ethiopia is being used by the imperialists and Zionists, and
Right.
also the Djibouti is used by French, all these American military base. So we need to liberate them. We need
Yeah.
to liberate them. That was his reason. So when we started war, when people were focusing on the external conflict, and then he overthrew the government. He jailed all the private media, all the judiciary system. Like 20 ministers has been jailed in a day. And
Wow.
he said they found out to be traitors. They were working with the American imperialists, so they've been jailed. And because there was a very hot war, the people were unable to see it. They were emotionally defending the country. So
Right.
he used that opportunity to control it. So in 2001, and then he became absolute dictator and communist, and he started controlling all the educational system, all the cultural system. And there is one media, there is one newspaper, there is one educational curriculum, and there is one judiciary, and basically there is everything. Every freedom has been taken away from us.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So obviously, you were there until you were 18, you said. So you lived a good amount of time there. So growing up, we talked about this a little bit. Everyone is automatically soldier. The guy, the males, right? Females too, or
not,
just
not only male, all females and males from the age of 18 to the age of 55 has to be a soldier and
okay.
has to be conscripted to a military.
And it's even programmed because we talked about this that you said like most kids grow up and they want to be an astronaut, or most kids grow up and they want to do sport, they want to do this, but your kids grow up there seeing they're at a point now where they grow up and they want to be a soldier, they want to fight. Correct?
That's basically true, because all the so what they're doing is the content on the education system.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach you the real history of who you are, how you became to be where you are. They
Mm-hmm.
don't teach you that. They don't teach you your history, your war against Islam, because basically if they teach you like about the invention of Islam to Africa and specifically to our country, then you will have an historic perspective. So what they do is, no, everybody is equal. Religion doesn't matter. Religion is not the reason for you to be separated, to be discriminated. Race is not the reason. So the only enemy to you is the upper class or the rich, the people who have money. So we are here to create social justice for you.
Right.
Everybody equal, like a kind of utopic ideas. So that's what they teach you. So that's in the early school system, like in the elementary, in the junior, in the high school.
Yeah.
That's all. They teach you fake history. They don't teach you your forefathers' history. And they teach you about these all communist ideas which been written by Noam Chomsky, a translated book, because they teach you that America is a very imperialist state and it has a lot of homelessness. And all the TV, all the newspaper also, they say the world has been terrorized by American imperialism. There is a homelessness in America. There is a natural disaster in America. There is a natural disaster in Japan, like this all volcano stuff. So the people are religious. Oh, so we live like in a most peaceful and blessed country. That's what they've been thinking. So, but when I finished high school, like I had to go to the military camp as mandatory by the state, because it's my age at the age of 18.
Right.
And I was there, and then I passed the national exam. So I was given an opportunity to study in the college, in a communist military college. By the way, you still in the college. You are guided by a military order. So basically, we have to run, we have to be trained while we study at the same time. So I really want to study a computer science, but they cannot let me study. Not anyone is allowed to choose what they really want to study, because they assign you according to what they need. Oh, you know what? We don't need you to computer science. We don't need that. We need you need to study an educational psychology, which is we want you to brainwash the younger students
Right.
as an administration in the school. So that's what we need as a so we don't want you to study computer.
Right.
Well, we don't want you to stay, but because we don't need that. So usually they assign educational program, or a psychology, sociology, political science. And this is not like a real political science. Don't ever
Right.
think that way, by the way. It's like a indoctrination, like a cadre school, so they assign you according to it. Sometimes they assign you to finance and stuff like that, but still they don't let you to study anything you want. Nobody is allowed to study.
So you actually became a teacher, right? They forced you to become a teacher, but in what you had to teach was brainwashing them to all basically think this is great. That's the training that they gave you was basically psychology on how to continue on the path of their vision of education.
Exactly. So I did not happen to be a teacher because I ran away. When I got to college, I understood that how the system, how they use it.
Right.
Me to indoctrinate my younger brothers, my younger family, my younger siblings.
Mhm.
Then I decided, okay, so this is a red line for me. Then I had to run away. Even it's better for me to die trying to free myself than to live under this oppressive system of governance. So I had to run away, and the military was shooting me because there was a shoot to kill policy, like a North Korea. In North Korea, if you cross the border,
Right. North Korea.
and then they have this shoot to kill policy, they
Right.
shoot you. So they adopted that kind of policy, and they were shooting me, but I ran away to Ethiopia, and from Ethiopia to Sudan. So that's the time that I had to search for freedom, and I had to pay
Yeah.
whatever price that I need to pay.
So basically, that's it. And I want to talk about that too, but I want to go back. So basically, just so everybody understands, the minute you're 18 to 55, you're a soldier, and you stay a soldier so that you're under military rules.
Yes,
So
that's
that
correct.
so at that point, you have to follow orders from 18 to 55.
Yeah, my father is now 59, and they actually changed recently the law from 55 to 65. So he was supposed to be retired, but he's still under the military. So forgive me, a young, but even my father is not allowed.
Right.
60 years old is not allowed to get out of the country. Is not allowed to have a passport. Is not allowed even to live a normal life outside of the
Right.
military.
Because you stay military for that whole time. Now,
For the whole time.
um, and I want to talk a little bit about, so what was it like growing up? Because like we talked about this, technically everything's free, correct? Now, do you have money? Like, how does that whole process work? Like, you were to wake up in the morning, how do you eat? Like, how do you buy food? How do you actually? How's that whole process work?
Well, so there is two things happening there. One is so the education is free because the education and the health and all these are free. But all the people who work there, the nurse, the teacher, the director, the doctor, all of them are not getting paid. So they are a property of the state. So the state actually like a welfare system, it's a national welfare system. So the reason one of the main reason that they conscripted all the young to the military is they need to be fed.
Right.
They need to serve, at the same time they need to be fed. So they are not allowed to get married. Even if they want to get married or they want to have children, then their children going to school. So and they will go for free. And but there is a very very big problem, because if you get married and have children and you are in the military,
Mm-hmm.
then your children can go to school for free, but they need food.
Right.
So that food usually either the old mother work sometimes, and but most of the time Eritrea is a very peaceful country, but it's a second country to export refugees to the Western countries. So all, including me, all the Eritreans in diaspora, in America, in Europe, they had to send and feed them money. So we actually subsidized our family for food, for everything. But the government uses our children to 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 indoctrinate his ideas, or to use whatever he wants to use. But the children or our family are the property of the state. But we help him to feed and to clothe and everything that the family needed. So
Right.
so basically it's a kind of a welfare system for the basic standard living. But if they want extra, then they have to call the people in the outside. But if they don't have anybody, they happen to be starved to death, and they don't want to show you that there is a lot of poverty starvation, stuff like that, and they don't want to show you that. But there are a lot of people who does not help, who doesn't get help from the outside. They die, or they become beggars, homeless, all this stuff.
So basically, then what happens is, let's say you had a son. I'll keep it simple. You're in the military. Now you're married and you have a son. Because you're in the military, they're giving food to your kid because you're in the military. They're not paying you, but they're giving food.
No,
To,
they don't. They don't give food. They don't give food to my child, but they give free education, free health. That's what they tell him. That's all they give.
okay.
But for food, I have to figure it out. How? I don't know.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
oh,
So I have to figure it out. So that's why most of the refugee in America, Eritrean refugee in America, in Europe, in Israel, most of them are young because they need to feed their family. The
right.
main reason that they run away, they need to help their family survive. Otherwise, they will be starved to death.
So,
That's a
okay.
very hard choice.
So how and where do you go to buy this food? Like where? Let's say, I mean, first of all, I don't. How do you? How would you make the money? Somebody. I mean, who gives who? Where does that come from? Like, how do you buy food?
Okay, so there is a state-owned shops
Okay.
that you can buy. So what they do is that, what, they kicked all the businessmen. In 2000 they kicked them out. They went to other countries in Africa. So they work in there. All the businessmen, all the people who were importers, exporters in the country. So the reason they kicked them all is because all these businessmen are greedy.
Mm.
The reason you have very expensive high prices on the commodity that you are buying, because these business are basically, they are greedy, they are capitalists, they don't care about you, they don't care about justice, they don't care about your well-being, but we care. So the government turns out to be an importer, or like they turn themselves to a business. So they import this stuff, they create small shops owned by the state, and they say they call it a fair price. They put some kind of fair price tag there.
Mhm.
It's still very expensive, because when you don't get paid, you don't have money.
Right.
Everything, even a penny, is expensive for you, by the
Right.
way. But
Right.
they say they call it a fair price, but you have to figure it out how to pay that one, because we pay for your school, you pay for your health. We cannot pay everything for your life. So basically, there are a lot of young people also. They run away within the state, and they work illegally, like
Right.
they work illegally, or they work in the farm. That way, they help their family. So it's
And then who would actually be giving them money? Like what people would have money to give there?
So the people in diaspora, almost now 1 million people are in diaspora, and we are very communal. Say we're not like we're a little bit different from American society. We
Mhm.
are very communal. So like I help not only my mother, my father, my son, my children. Also, I help my distant relatives all the way to 7 generation.
Yeah.
Each and every family does. So that's the main reason, because that's the main reason the country is going for 25 years without any foreign aid, and the government is always proud about that. That as a self-reliant policy is being succeeding in Africa, without, because most of the African countries get a foreign aid. They cannot live without foreign aid. So by creating this kind of very sophisticated system, and also controlling the media and stuff not to get out any information out of the country, the government has a policy called self-reliance. So they are usually be proud in the international media. Look, we can do it with self-reliance. So Ethiopia needs to do it. Uganda, all the African, you don't need all these imperialists. So they just sell their ideas at,
Mm.
at the suffer of its own people. But somehow the people are surviving in a very, very harsh condition. And the main problem is there is not a lot of information that comes out there. So what everybody's happening is happening inside. So for example, when I ran away from my country, my homeland, so I didn't have any penny because I couldn't get any money from my mother, from my father. Nobody can give me any money, so I had to run away. And then I served for 7 days in Sudan. I was only drinking water. Imagine that. And
Mhm.
the and then after 1 week, then some people helped me to eat, and then I had to call my distant cousins, and they send me like $100, and when I exchange to the local currency, it's a little bit better, so I can eat,
Right.
I can help myself. So basically the people are helping each other somehow miraculously. So like, I don't know how the people lives, because it's a miracle to me too, because I
Right.
don't know how I survived all this. I'm talking to you now, like it's like kind of a miracle to me that I'm here talking to
Right.
you, having money, having freedom, having even the freedom to say what I'm saying.
Right.
But I never ever thought what actually happened there would be a story one day in my life. Never
Right.
ever.
And then and I want to talk about this too. And Eureka is gold. Its major export is gold to China. It is not. I mean, think about this. We all know how expensive gold is, and everybody wants gold. And here's gold, and here's gold. Your major export out of your country is gold mines that China is now taking control of.
Mhm.
So how you're a poor country, I don't understand. Right?
That's actually a
Am I
very, very interesting question. I'm always, like the problem with our country is very rich in gold. It's
correct?
like, I remember, by the way, there is my auntie is here in Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and she said that there, in 2009 she was telling me there was a famine, a very bad famine, because the people could not get any food to eat, and then there was no any money, so she had to go to the mountain, and she found like a big gold as big as this, like a very big gold, full of gold, she found on the mountain without like mining anything.
Right.
And then she sold it to another guy illegally, and she made money. That's how her story was telling me. That's how she survived with her 4 children.
Yeah.
That gold. So there is a lot of gold, there is a lot of silver, there is a lot of potassium, there is a lot of minerals, natural gas. There is 600 coastal area. We can only eat fish,
Right.
and there is 350 islands that we can easily go to the island, fish, and
Mhm.
eat. So the country is very rich, and demographically we are few. We are only 5 million people,
Right.
so we can all be rich. But the problem with the government is nobody knows where this money is going except the president and
Right.
his finance minister. There is no any national bank that reports the government, the national debt, the national expenses, the national budget. There is nothing in the country. There is no any data. By the way, you were speaking about the population of Eritrea. You were saying 3 million, 5 million last time
Correct.
I heard you. The reason that a lot of conflicting data is the data is part of a secret. It's only held in the presidential office.
Mm.
The reason it's held is because if like, because we have a few minority, mostly minority in Eritrea.
Mhm.
So if the government has a policy
Mhm.
or releases this data of population, the people will complain. Oh, we are majority, so we will need our story to be written. We need our economy to grow. So he's doing this nation building, what he calls. We need a nation building, because what he said is, all this indoctrination is doing it part as his social engineering for a minority and the majority to be one people with no religion, with no history, with no pride, with nothing. He is the center of like a god figure of this a new created colonial state. So Eritrea was created by colonization, so there is a few
Right.
minority there, and there is a majority there. So he's doing this social engineering. And then the data for population and for the data for the finance, all the data has to be part of a secret. It's not like what's happening in America here. Whatever you need data, you can just go to journalists, go and find out what's going on.
Right. Right.
But there, only the intelligence and the president knows what's happening when it comes to finance, when it comes to the number of population, everything is secret there. That's the main reason Eritrea is a North Africa North Africa, North Korea of the Africa. That's the main reason, because it's very, very secretive state, and not because we have a nuclear power, nothing. But that's the secret with
Right.
our similarity with North Korea.
Right.
Mhm.
And this is something so growing up, it was very, like I said, they did the same thing. It's the social justice, everybody's equal, rip everybody, and everybody works basically for free.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
in the
a
mines,
slave, it's a
in the
slave
military,
labor. You are a slave.
right? And it's
Mother and race slavery.
and don't stand up, and the only information you're getting is the information that they want to give you through the news, through the media. So like, we even had a conversation that you called because they don't during during COVID, you basically called and said, Dad, are you okay? Because they don't have, obviously they don't have the medical that we have. They don't have the masks. Because he doesn't want masks, right? He didn't want any of that stuff. He didn't want medicine or anything, right? The president. So I was shocked. You called and you said, Dan, is everybody okay there? I'm worried about you. And your dad literally said, I'm more worried about you and everybody that's dying over there than over here, because he thought the information he was getting was we were all sick.
We're all dying. Yeah.
We're all sick. We're all, nobody's left over here in this country.
Yeah.
But that's the type of information they're given, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Basically, so there was so when in the media, on the state media, they bringing, what? You're not dying from coronavirus or from this global pandemic. You are even safe under the global pandemic.
Right.
But the imperial state are dying. They are dying, and they don't have they don't have the ability to manage it. But we have the ability to manage it. And when I called my father, he said, "Are you okay?" And because I know that there is no vaccine, even India want to give him like a mask, a vaccine, but he said, "No, we are self-reliant. land. We don't want to get any vaccine. We don't want to get any mask. We know how to manage ourselves. Don't just give us this kind of help." So
That's almost with any medicine, right? Any
kind
medicine.
of medicine, with any kinds of medicine. And then when I called my father, he said, "Are you okay?" "No, we're okay, but you guys are dying. Are you okay?" And he said, "No, I'm in America. I got a vaccine. I got all the information that I needed.
Right.
But I heard like millions of people are dying in America on the TV. So you guys are not dying?" "Yes, but there are thousands of people are dying, but there are 350 million people here. Even like people from diabetes or other kind of this are dying more than a coronavirus."
Right.
So he does not have the context, because he got only the propaganda that comes out from the state. And he said, "But that's what the government is telling us. So you guys are okay." "Yeah, we're okay. And we got a vaccine. We are okay now. And they're opening it. But they've been closed. In Eritrea has been closed. There is no like a flight. There is nothing. And there is no data. Even thousands, hundreds of thousands are dying from corona. They will not give you the data. The data is part of their power. They keep it secret. And there is no internet. There is only 2% of internet in the country. So there is no way that he can give access to the people or educate the people that there is another reality outside the world. There is no internet.
So, and a lot of the stuff that they actually do is it's not about lie. It's they don't give context. Like they just basically they don't let you know the whole story. They just give you this little bit, and they say, "See, everyone's homeless in America. see, and it might be this spot is homeless, but they're like, nope, the whole country's homeless. I'm like, no, no, wait, and that's kind of how they brainwash the people, correct?
Exactly. Not only that, you know what? They bring also when there is like a student, they bring you this a lot of data from America. Let's say there is a student debt.
Yeah.
Look, you are being educated for free, but look, the American students has been suffering from a debt. They they have this debt. That's why they got a problem. So we are right, we are not wrong, you know. And they say we are right that this capitalism is evil. They manipulate people. They put people in a very bad condition, so they bring in a partial data and give you.
Mhm.
So and then okay, so we have this free education, so this government means okay, you know. And then you've been like being partially brainwashed, partially believe, because
Right.
you don't have any, you don't get any positive news. All this technology, all this progress, all this freedom, all this, there is a lot of positive sides on the America, on the Western world. They don't give you that,
Right.
only the bad side. And even they don't tell you how much they get paid. So for example, when I was in the college, there was this a professor who came from Europe. She was working in a World Bank, and she's a far left ideology. She came back to Eritrea, and she was teaching us, and she was teaching us as a kind of a witness, you know. Oh, I live there. I live in a Western world. I worked in a World Bank. I worked in their institution. So you guys are doing fine. So
Oh, hang on. Let me make sure I get this right. So somebody came from America to teach you,
yes,
and she was a complete leftist, and
yeah,
telling you that you are all doing better than you would be doing in America.
yes. And the reason she's the one to teach us is she's saying, don't believe your leaders because they never been to America.
Mhm.
But believe me, because I was there. I worked in their institution. I worked in their system. I worked how people. I see. I learned how people live. I live it myself. So don't. Even though you don't believe your leaders, but believe me because I'm eyewitness. I live through it. And then I asked her one question. I remember I asked her, okay, so this education is free now here in our country, but and you saying that they paid a lot of money, but how much do they get paid? That's what the question that I asked her. So you are saying if they pay ten thousands of dollars, but how much a normal income of the people who are
Right.
educated there? And she couldn't answer that question. She said, yeah, they get paid, but and then she just let it pass. And that's that's the main reason triggered me that this woman is even also hiding something else. This is like a bigger propaganda machine that's happening all of our on our people.
How did she get there? Like, how did she? Do you know? Did she ever find out? Like, how did she end up getting there to teach?
Well, there are a lot of Americans who were friends of the government, professors from. There was also the one professor from Manchester University from
England.
England, and that woman she went there, and then she was teaching there, and like she coming out. She's a friend of the regime, and I was an activist in Israel, like for the human right abuse that's happening in our country on the way. So I was kind of active. So I was teaching a lot of Israel that how we came here to be a refugee. And then this professor from Manchester came. She wrote an article on the Israeli media, and she gathered a lot of people. You know what? These guys are lying. They have this free education system. They have 6 7 colleges, and they doing fine. They being exaggerating. It's not a North Korea of Africa. These activists are exaggerating. That's what
Mhm.
she. Not only they go back and teach there, but they come back and teach the Western people that America is dehumanizing this communist status, but
Mhm.
they're doing fine. So basically, they're doing fine. Like Bernie was going to Moscow, in 70s. Bernie Sanders was
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Like there are people like that. They go and come back. They see how things work, and if it's even though they see it's horrible, but they don't want to witness it when they come back. They want to witness it the otherwise because, well, if they tell them the true story, the people here say, well, so why do we need it here? If
Right.
it's if they tell the story I'm telling, they say the people here, well, why do we need it? Why
Right.
are you guys are uh, telling us that socialism is our solution here for our student debt or our other financial crisis that we have?
Right.
So they
Wow.
tell a different story when they come back here.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing because now that's a good point. Bernie Sanders went to Moscow. These people would be coming over here, learning the system, and then next thing you know, they're coming back and they're running for office in our country.
Yeah, and they modified the terminology, like the communists, they call it, like Bernie says, social democracy. There is no called social democracy. When you are a socialist, socialist country, there is no democracy. There is no
Mm.
any democracy because it would not work without oppression, without suppression, without force. That's why what we see in America here. That's my main concern. What we see in America right now is they cancel you. The media censor what the other people want to hear. There's a lot of censorship that's happening in American big media now. They
Right.
don't let anybody to talk anything.
And hold that,
Because
hold that thought because we're going to go into that. So real quick, I want to ask this: when you ran, when you took off, uh, how did that happen? You just packed a bag and went. Like you said, they shot at you and everything, correct? Like, can you tell a little bit about like how that went down?
well, I was trained in the military,
Right.
so I know how the military. I kind of learned how the military works, even though I was a student. But I went to the military part of my educational system.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how the border to Ethiopia, how where there is a. So I planned with a few of friends that I had that. So that we found a guy that he was also a student with us in the college, but his native village is across the border. So we
Okay.
made some kind of a very clean planning, and we went there. Usually, a lot of people who try to cross,
Mm-hmm.
dissidents being killed on the border.
Right.
Being killed because they they went to cross there without any plan. But we had this guy who is originally from the border, who knows all the landscape, the mountain, everything better than the border patrols.
Gotcha.
So basically, we fled ourselves and we slide there. But unfortunately, they found us because there was this military sector called like a commando.
Yeah.
So they not only patrolling the border, but they went to the other country's side.
Okay.
So when we passed it, they were coming and they were shooting us because they knew that we were running away. And then
Mm.
we ran away, and thanks God that we made it to Sudan, and from Sudan to Egypt, and then to Israel. So
And
yeah,
then you made it. So that's how you got out. So then you eventually go from Israel, and you learned to speak English. Where did you learn to speak English?
I learned it in Eritrea. So part of our education system, especially the higher level of education system, is in English.
Hang on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Hey. All right. Let me know. Okay. What time are you gonna be there? Okay. 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 Gotcha. All right. So then you end up Israel. I'm sorry. Where'd you learn to speak English?
In Eritrea.
Okay. And then so you end up in Israel.
Mhm.
And how long are you in Israel?
So before I ended up in Israel, it took me 3 years to get into Israel. So I stayed on North Africa, especially in Sudan, in Egypt. And then before I went to Israel, I was planning to go to Israel because this Egypt and Sudan are Muslim countries. They did not give Eritrean any asylum. To the contrary, a lot of Eritreans has been kidnapped by a group which were very connected to a terror group like ISIS and like Hamas, like Hezbollah, all these groups. So a lot of Eritrean has been sexually raped
Mhm.
and organ harvested. So basically, all these terrorist group that I mentioned were funding themselves from our organs being sold in a different parts of the world illegally. So I was kidnapped in Sinai Peninsula in Egypt before I went to Israel by a clan which was connected to a terrorist group, Hamas. And then I had to pay $3,000. And then they let me go to Israel. That's how I ended up. So
Gotcha.
if you cannot pay for this terrorist group, then you will end up being organ harvested. They will sell your organ basically. So
Wow.
this is a horrible modern day slavery that's happening right now. And there are one of my friend also in Europe. There are those who go through Libya to Europe also. There are one of my friend who survived it. If you watch the news that there were 49 Ethiopian and Eritrean has been beheaded by ISIS. You may
Mhm.
watch them on the TV in 2000 now, in 2028. You may watch it that one. So one of them actually survived that because he ran away. So on our journey, like we were being indoctrinated that every society around the globe is categorized by bourgeois, by classes, not by race, not by religion, not by not by tribalism. So what we've been indoctrinated is only there are rich and poor, only the bourgeois and the proletariat. So when we went to Sudan, we were not prepared what would happen to us. We were just running away from a communist state in the up to a more horrible experience that we had in our country. So a very traumatic experience. And then I went to Israel. Israel is a very democratic state, a westernized state, and they gave me an asylum, a freedom to live, the right to work, like so I really appreciate the people of Israel and the state of Israel for giving us the sanctuary. There are almost 40,000 Eritreans has been given an asylum.
Wow. So then you come. Eventually, you leave Israel and you come to the States,
Yeah.
and you've been here for how long? 6 years, you said.
6 years. Yeah.
6 years, and you love it here. This is not what your teacher was telling you, was it? That was what the teacher telling. But you're starting to see some of the stuff that they did, and the mindset and the ideology. You're starting to see that here, aren't you?
Yes.
And talk about that. Like, what specifically are you starting to see, and in regards to the same either start or that ideology. Oh, you know what I mean? Ideology.
So let me that's a very interesting question because when I came here, the first time I came here, I was very happy. I was very honored to live among the American people. And I know Americans are an amazing people, and they love freedom,
Right.
and they let me to work, to go to school, to create my own business, like all this freedom. I really appreciated that opportunity that America provides to me when I came here, and I'm very happy. I'm very honored. And then, but when I started to get involved to the American people, media, and all this stuff, I started to recognize the same trends that's happening in our country. And those trends is when it comes to education system. I was telling all how they educate us. Like they didn't teach us real history. They didn't teach us real events that happened in our past history. They didn't teach us our culture. They undermining our religion. They undermining our value. All these things in the name of social engineering, communism, or social justice, free, whatever the ideology that's the end goal that they claims. And when I saw here all the education system are being controlled by this leftist ideology, and they teach fake history. They really teach fake history, and they undermining the historical figures that for this country, all the historic figures. Oh, this guy was like that. Oh, that guy, well, George Washington was like that. Jefferson was like that. So and that's demonizing the historical figure, demonizing. And when it comes to Bible, oh, this Bible is a human sacrificial backward heritage. You don't want that. You don't want it. So they undermining it, even though this country was all this liberty and freedom that we have was founded on this Judeo-Christian value, but they just undermine. So all this undermining, demonizing your tradition, your culture, your history is part of the tactics that communists uses, because they have to separate you from the heritage, from the ideology, old ideology that you have, in order to teach you a new garbage ideology. They have to separate you first. If they don't separate you from history, from your heritage, from your culture, from your value, then they cannot teach you a new value, a new culture, a new history.
Right.
So that's the tactics that they use, and that makes you ignorant. By the way, you have to we have to fight these ideas. That's one of the ideological. So we are in a war in America. Understood that, especially into 2020, I understood that we are in a cultural war. This is happening, a cultural war happening against all the heritage that we have, we have in America. So, and that's one thing. And another thing, uh, the America is founded in a freedom of speech and freedom of press, and freedom of
Religion, right?
to form opinions, whatever, and that has started to be diminishing. Oh,
Right.
you don't have to say that. If you say anything, that's like radical. That's something, they put it in some kind of category, and they censor you, and they dehumanize you. They do the same thing. And also when you see the all these enforcement agency, like the judicial agency, has been used against, they are not independent anymore. They've been politicized, and they've been used against specific people with a different idea. So even if there is a very bad idea, there should be a freedom of speech anytime, anywhere in America, because that's the heritage that the forefathers of this country gave us.
Let me ask you this. Now, we there's a right and there's a left, right? Right? But there's extreme right and extreme left. But what it sounds like is what the communists try to do is get rid of the right and left and put everybody in the middle where they don't think, right? Which is wipe everything out. So
Yeah,
you're not too far right, but you're not too far left. They
yeah.
want you just in the middle so that they can control you. Because if you start to lean one way, you get a little bit out of control. If you
Mhm.
start to lean the other way, you get a little bit out of control. Is
Mhm.
that, you think that's a true statement? I mean, you think that's kind of what they
Yeah,
look?
that's true statement. But so that will destroy our freedom of speech. Even
Right,
we have to know our enemy. If there is only freedom of speech, that we will know our an enemy of this country, if there is one, which is far right or far left.
right,
If we ban the freedom of speech, the freedom to make assembly, then we wouldn't know what's happening in this country. It
Right.
would more endangers the country's survival. If you
Right.
ban all the freedom of speech, you will endanger this country's survival in the future. That's why, look, America is now has been divided so much. You know,
Right.
America is this idealist and powerful and super powerful country until now, but now it's been deteriorating from inside, and with this divisive policy, and they indoctrinate our the young generations to be a communist, not respecting their value, not respect their heritage, not respecting their history. If you don't respect your history, you will not make any history. The young generation will never ever a great history if they don't admire a historic figure who has done a great things in this country 200, 100 years ago. This is like a common sense, you know.
Right.
The reason we ran away from my country is they killed all our patriotic figures in that country. So the only thing left is we ran away. You know, in 2020, when Trump was elected, a lot of young people were, I'm running away to Canada. Even if you think Trump is not a good, has a bad idea, you have to face him. You have to be, you are a children of these heroic figures like George Washington, Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton. You are the son of daughters of that generation. Then you have to face it. They faced their enemy. They did not run away. They could run away, right? When they
Yeah.
faced the
When
British.
you let me
So,
ask you.
so it's very interesting that's happening in America. It makes me very scared because I don't want this country to be like any African state being divided with race and stuff. You
Mhm.
know, America is being founded on a Judeo-Christian value and on a common law. So everyone who comes here has to be assimilated and integrated in that system, because that's the foundation of the country to this country to be united and strong.
Right. Right.
So they've been teaching everything against this country's foundation values and history, and that will create a very very dangerous result, because we have seen on our in African state, on my country, this divide. When tribalism happening in a country, that's the end of the story of this country. Really, that's what's gonna happen. So I don't believe in any race. I believe in value, in culture. So anybody, I don't want to be defined by the color of my skin. I want to be
Right.
defined by the ideas and beliefs that I believe. That what defines me more than my color of skin. There are more than 1 billion black people in Africa, and we fight each other. We being racist to each other. We kill each other.
Right.
We have war among each other. So this race and gender ideology, race ideology, all this is bullshit. All this is nonsense, you know. And all the African American who has been living for 100 years are Americans. They should claim it. They are part of this because they're valid. They don't have any common with my ancestor. They don't. They are originally from Africa, but they've been here. They've been part
Right.
of this great nation, and they are American more than anybody, more than me, who I come 6 years ago. You know.
Right. Right. Well,
So
and
I
it,
don't know why they hate this country. You know.
you bring up a good point, and the point was, you listen. You're coming from someplace else, right? You're coming from someplace else, but you're bringing your culture to our country. You're not trying to change our country's culture, right? You're just bringing it so that other people can see your culture, see who you are, decide if they, oh man, I really like this guy. I want to hang out. Let's do, but you're not trying to change our country. And because this is why you came here, is
Yeah.
because of this. And if you change it, then where can anybody go?
So you
Right?
become enemy of the country that gives its opportunity of freedom and liberty. You know, so if I try to change, once I come here, if I try to change your history, your
Right.
value, even if I have this similar culture with the American, the Judeo-Christian value stuff, but I don't my the American historical figures. I'm not a son of Jefferson. He's not
Right.
my father.
Right.
But if I read what Jefferson believes, if I
Correct.
believe in that idea, technically I'm his child because I believe in
Right.
what he believes. So we need to define what to be mean the children of this great nation. It means it should be defined by the value. It should be defined by the ideas of this country, not by the bad side of the history, not but what personality of each person.
Right.
Now, but what was the idea? Like I was telling you, Noam Chomsky, he's an socialist intellectual linguistic American.
Right.
He's very famous in our country. Our
Oh,
leaders, they loved him so much. They loved him because what he wrote, his books are, believe it, the same idea of other leaders. So they become one. But
right.
citizenship on a background, they are different people. Even the government, the leaders in our country claims that America is our enemy. Yet Noam Chomsky is their friend because, and I believe them because they have the same idea. So
Right.
why do you have, if I'm an enemy of these leaders who have a different idea of our forefathers' heritage, and then if you have the same idea, if Sage has from New Hampshire, I don't know, but have the same idea value like me, then you are my comrade. You are my part of
Yes.
struggle. So, but here, like when Biden said to the African American, say if you are not electing me, you're not black. That's what he told him.
Right.
That's crazy because
Right.
I am black, but I may have a different idea.
Right.
The other guy might have a different idea. Who said that all black people thinking the same? There are 54 countries, more than 100 billion black people in India. Black people are all over the world. So we just cannot put us in one box because of our color. This is actually worse racism than uh, than um, than an open racism. Really, I respect the guy who is racist more to me directly than this guy putting me in a category of a billion people because of my color skin without knowing who I am. I
Right.
don't. That's worse racism. That's actually and that's like undermining you as a person, as a human being. It's dehumanizing because they don't believe that you have an idea except your color of skin. That's actually extreme racism. That's the reason that I really want to come out and speak because why this guy is putting every one of us in the same box because of
Right.
our system.
And what was there some like when he first came into power in your country when in 1991 was there some changes that he made immediately? Like what changes that did he make immediately? Or was it already kind of there?
Okay, so when he came to our country in 1991, so we have this very powerful revolutionary army who defeated Ethiopia and also Russian Soviet officers, by the way.
Right.
So what's happening in Ukraine now? All this heavy bombardment,
Yeah.
artillery bombardment. That's what happened to our revolution. One fourth of our people ran away from their cities and lived in a mountain area with this revolution group. So when he came there, so we created a very, very powerful army against the Soviet Union, against the
Mhm.
Ethiopian regime. So we had this very powerful army, and they are the first after our independence. They said we need a salary. We cannot. We served almost for 30 years. We served there out there in the mountains with no money, and that's understandable. But now we got our nation, so we need our salary to take care of our family. And they put him in a jail, and he said, you know what, I would like to give you the money, but there is no any money in this country. There is not. It's been destroyed by war. There is nothing. And then and then they understood, he let him go from the jail and he became the president, and he destroyed that army. He created this new military camp that I was trained. He created that in order to do social engineering in creating a very weak and feminized army. very weak and feminized army.
What do you mean by
Because
that? What do you
the group, the army came from the revolution was very, very powerful army. They were fighting against their enemy. They were very hero. So they could easily overthrow him. So, and when created this a new military camp to indoctrinate younger generation, created a new army that will be obedient to the government, weak and mentally enslaved. That's the reason he created the military conscription in 1991. So that's how he started his campaign.
Okay. So was there anything like right now we have stuff going on that they're doing like critical race theory and all this other type stuff. What was there anything he started right away that you can kind of see the same thing happening now when he came in?
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to mention, like, so when I say he created the military training camp, it was not only to get trained like a military exercise. It's there for us to be trained to be obedient,
Mhm.
to be feminized, and not to be a threat to the regime's power. So when I say feminize it, I don't mean like, so like what's happening here is now everything is over sexualized. Even the men are like very feminized, and they don't act like a manly. The man thinks like a woman, and the woman someone thinks like a man. That's like a crazy thing. So like if you take for example TikTok, what's been happening there, it's all sexualized. Even and there is a lot of over sexualized that's happening in America. So everybody has the right to do whatever they like, but we have to see it on a national level. If you over sexualize it, if you make your man a woman, and if you make your woman a man, so that's a very dangerous indoctrination that's happening in this country. That's really, really bad, because you just thinking to run away. You don't have your, man is provider, protector, according to the tradition. That's why they were fighting against the British, and they liberated this country. They were protecting their women. They were protecting their children. They were protecting the territory of this country. But I'm like doubting myself sometimes, if the American has been over feminized, are they gonna be able to fight to Russia? Are they gonna be able to fight to Chinese? And this is happening, a media war, a cultural war. Slowly they make the Americans men to hate their country,
Right.
and to feminize them. That means they cannot face them. By the way, this is a reality. When in a war, if we are not strong enough to fight the Russian, the Chinese on the ground, you cannot just win the war. That's why China is expanding all over. China is taking over our country in Djibouti, in Africa. They're taking all over this country, and their media, they separated it. They have a different TikTok, they have a different YouTube, they have a different Facebook.
Mhm.
They created their sovereignty on controlling what kind of information going out to our people, because they will these ideas, we are the result of ideas. So maybe right now we don't see it, but maybe in 20-30 years, what's gonna happen with this young generation that we have? Are they gonna be competitive with the other world?
Right.
Are they gonna be strong to compete with the other world? That's the main. Slowly we're destroying our youngest,
Mhm.
whether we consciously or unconsciously. So that's what happened to us. The reason young people are running away instead of facing this regime in our country is because they been convinced us that we are weak, we are unable to do, we are a victim, we are all these things. They made us to be obedient. with indoctrination, not like with only power, with indoctrination. It's not with a physical only, but with indoctrination, with media, with idea, with books, with education system, with all these things made us to be obedient, to be weak, to hate our country, to hate our value, to run away from our beloved country, even though it's rich. You can run away from your beloved country, even it can provide you all the things that you need if you don't if you don't if you don't learn how to love it, how to defend it, so we need to recreate, we need to fight this cultural war, this media war, this ideological war. We need to fight it. So, and I'm here to fight it.
And because, like I said,
People will be offended. You know what I'm talking about? This, a lot of people may get offended, but I don't care, because we need to defend this country. You know, this country needs to be competitive. The young needs to be competitive, like the old generation.
right.
This country became powerful because of the young people who fought for this country, because they fought tooth and nail. Look, these young, they ran away because Trump was elected. They ran away. Think about if the Russia came here or Chinese came here, what would they do? They ran away all far. You know, we need to defend this country. And we don't have any physical war that to defend now, but we have a psychological, cultural war happening in this country.
Right. And you've seen what happens. You've seen what happens when you've lived it. You lived it until you were 18.
Yeah.
I mean, extreme, but it's still that ideology, and it's still that thought process, and it's still that mentality. And it's first so basically they get rid of your ability to think. They get rid of your education. They get rid of your knowledge, your critical thinking, your common sense, and then they tell you what to think.
Yes.
And so at this point, you know, right and left, they want you basically just flatlined. They want you where they can control you.
Yes.
And at that point, they got you. And it's very hard to get out, because once you're in, it's very
they teach you to hate this country. They teach you, oh, this country is racist. This country is bad. So they don't use the same word our leader used, like imperialist stuff like that, but they use the same message.
Right.
This country is really racist, imperialist. This country is very bad. This country is anti its own citizens. No, it's not. It's taken. It gives me. I'm not a citizen. I'm a refugee. You know, like I'm a refugee, but it gives me the opportunity of like any citizen in America, like you.
Right.
So this country is a great nation that gives equal opportunity, but it cannot give equal result. You know, you need to work for that. Anybody has to work for that to bring a better result. But the opportunity that this country gives is really, really grateful. You know, it's amazing, and we should not learn against that. We should not learn it at all.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I think this was a great interview, and I appreciate the fact that you came here and you realized, man, this is a great company. I really want to work hard and make something of it. And I appreciate the journey that you're now on to teach the rest of everybody else how bad it could be and what we actually have, where some of us are taking it for granted because it's not like this every place else.
No.
So I do want to thank you for coming on. You want to say anything? Any last statements?
Yeah, thank you, Sage, for having me, for giving the opportunity to tell my story and to be part of this great nation. I really appreciate the American freedom-loving people, and they should. I have this last message that I want to give to the Americans and to the people who listen to me. They need to respect we need to respect the history of this nation, the culture of this nation, the Judeo-Christian of this nation, the Judeo-Christian value of this nation, and the value system of the liberty and freedom of this nation. We should not let the government take away any heritage that we have from us. No, if we let the government something to take from us, they will take everything from us sooner or later. That's my last message.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. And As always, stay safe. Sage out.
Thank you. Thank you, Sage.
Thank you. All right, let me end this real quick here. Hang on.